Good morning, everyone. Really glad to see you here this morning. As you know, this is our Meet the CEO event. It's an invite-only event, and it's a new series that we actually started late last year. And we wanted to create this series in order to help introduce some of our newer CEOs to the area and newer to their role to other CEOs. I'm Tiffany Tauschek, and I'm the COO at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and it is my pleasure to be able to put Ben in the hot seat today. Just kidding, Ben. We're gonna walk through and learn more about Ben and how he landed in his new role as CEO of the Iowa Clinic. First, I'm going to give you just a quick brief bio on Ben. So Ben joined the Iowa Clinic in August of 2020, and the Iowa Clinic is the largest independent physician-owned and multi-specialty group in central Iowa. His career is really focused on strategic planning and growth initiatives for independent medical groups with a passion for improving the patient experience and delivering the highest quality of care. Prior to joining us here in Des Moines at the Iowa Clinic, Ben was the CEO of Jefferson City Medical Group in Jefferson City, Missouri. So very glad to have you here in Des Moines, Ben, and should also note that Ben received a bachelor's degree from Kansas State University and then followed that up with an MBA from Baker University. And Ben and his wife, Laura, have 3 daughters, and I hear that you are embracing winter, Ben. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. So welcome. And first, Ben, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you did a pretty good job, including my struggles adapting to the climate. So I'm not sure what else I could add to that, but I am really I'm really excited to be part of the Des Moines community and the just tremendously kind and welcoming culture that you all have here. So I just add that I'm excited to be here, and when things open up a little bit more, I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting more folks in person at some point.
Excellent, agreed. And thanks for all you and your team are doing to help keep our community healthy and help those that are sick. So really, really appreciate that. Can you start off just telling us a little bit about your career path and how you got to this point in your career as CEO of the Iowa Clinic?
Yeah, so graduated college with a degree in modern languages, which is about as useless as it sounds from a vocational perspective, and found myself working at a hospital and enjoyed the mission and the opportunity to impact patient care, albeit through indirect avenues, and from there moved into consulting, and eventually took a chief operating officer opportunity at a rural clinic in central Kansas, and then from there to Missouri, and then here. So I think the biggest part of my career success is probably my wife's willingness to move and be supportive of living a lot of random places around the Midwest as things have evolved.
Can you tell us just a little bit more about the Iowa Clinic and why you decided to specialize in physician-owned healthcare organizations?
Yeah, so I'm very much passionate about the mission of healthcare, and then within that space, I'm someone who kind of has a little bit of a rage against the machine, rebel, kind of chip on my shoulder as it relates to bureaucracy and things like that. And there's a lot of bureaucracy in healthcare. I've spent some time working at large publicly traded corporate hospital systems, and while I learned a lot, that really wasn't my environment. I like working directly with doctors who share kind of my disdain for red tape and unnecessary bureaucracy, and who want to make a difference. So this has always been an environment for me where I feel like I can make a bigger difference and be a little closer to the mission of healthcare.
Excellent, thank you. And don't worry, later I'm going to ask you more about what being a rebel looks like to you, Ben. So we'll hold that for later in the questions here. But just walk us through what a typical day is like for you, knowing that you're in this CEO role, also have a family and lots of other things you're juggling. Walk us through a typical day.
Well, I'm gonna guess it's like most other folks on this call. I spend 60% of my time in meetings, probably 10% of my time planning for the next set of meetings. I try to spend about 15, 20% of my time in the operations, around the customers, around our frontline staff, directly with our doctors. And then I feel like I sink whatever time is left into email, and more email.
I think we can all relate to that, right? I'm seeing lots of smiles. We get it. And I should also mention, if you have questions for Ben, please feel free to drop them into the chat or raise your hand, and we'll make sure to open it up for questions here as well. But Ben, can you share with us maybe an example or two, a story or two about your career path and any challenges maybe that you navigated as you were working your way up into this role as CEO of Iowa Clinic?
Well, I think in terms of challenges, it'd just be a series of embarrassing mistakes I made at every level of my career, and hopefully I'm learning from those things. But as I look back, I moved around a lot as a kid. About every 2 years, my family moved, just as a result of my dad's job. And while that's not something I recommend and hope not to inflict too much upon my kids, I think that instilled a certain amount of resiliency and adaptability, just in terms of my personality. That's certainly been helpful for me. And then, looking back on some of the mentors I've had, I remember I had one CEO that I looked up to early in my career, and I asked him what I should do to further my career. And he said, wherever you go, find the problem that no one was willing or able to solve, and obsessively focus on it until you get it solved. And so at least early in my career, that was kind of a guidepost for me in terms of, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Somebody just gave me, responsibility, and I've got X number of employees. I'm supposed to, do something with. What should I do? And that was something I've kind of fallen back on at different times. So a couple thoughts.
Love that. And are there any of those challenges that you were able to obsessively pursue and solve that you can share with us?
Oh gosh, yeah, probably some. A lot of them had to do with people issues. Like most organizations, you have a difficult relationship that either need to be improved, or perhaps you need to move somebody out of the organization, and other folks hadn't been willing to do that. And especially as an early manager, those are the big challenges I feel like I remember the most, and the things that kept me up at night and put my stomach in knots. But the things that were probably the most rewarding for the organization when I was able to overcome them.
Mm-hmm. And leading and managing such a huge team, how do you work through that? What's your approach to leading a large organization?
So I try to do 5 things. One is hire the right people, move out the wrong people as quickly as possible, develop a vision, get out of their way, and then have fun every day. So if I'm not having fun at work, I need to go do something else. So that's what I do.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Those are great tips. And I'm seeing here we have a question from Brian Clark. Brian, thanks for joining us today. Do you want to ask the question and introduce yourself?
Can you hear me okay? Good morning, Ben. Welcome to Des Moines. Go K-State. I'm an Iowa Stater, but you're a state school, so we'll support you. Curious about your perspective on the future of healthcare. It seems to be trending toward a more decentralized model, a more clinic-based model, putting healthcare more near the patients. Any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think so. Well, first of all, we're in an unsustainable environment, right? Where healthcare costs are trending at 5 and 6% a year. They're outpacing GDP. They're outpacing wage growth, actually creating net wage degradation for the average consumer with an average annual salary. So the situation we're in is absolutely not sustainable. We've got to find ways to deliver care with measurably high quality at a measurably lower cost point. And so I think we're at a tipping point. I think COVID, if there's a bright side to it within the healthcare space, I think maybe that's something that we'll see come out of that. I think there's real opportunities to create more of an ambulatory, outpatient, community-focused delivery model that can be done at a much lower cost than what we see today. And I think employers who sponsor health plans in particular are starting to figure out that that's a big driver of cost that they're going to have to dig into and get past kind of just the, okay, we'll sit down once a year and talk with HR and we'll do the best we can. And copays are going up kind of a thing. We're going to have to do something a little bit different. I think folks are on the cusp of figuring that out.
Thank you
for the question, Brian, and would invite anyone else who's on the call, if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourself, and feel free to ask Ben a question. Feel free. In the meantime, I'll just keep plowing away. We have a long list of questions we can ask Ben, and let's talk a little bit about community involvement. Ben, you and I have talked about this quite a bit in the course of the last few months, in particular, as you are, I'm sure, pulled in many, many different directions, but we also know that there are many people eager to get you involved and your family even further involved in our community. Can you share with us what your approach and strategy is as far as community engagement?
Well, I think over the last 6 months, it's just been survival. If I'm being 100% candid, so I feel like I'm at a point now where I can really start to get into the Des Moines community a little bit more. I'm really passionate about economic development, children's issues, healthcare issues generally, leadership development, some of those things. So I'm in the process right now of kind of evaluating a couple of different ways to get involved here. In the past, I've done a number of different things, but trying to kind of wade into some different areas in Des Moines. So I'm open for opportunities. Hopefully, they don't just involve fundraising, but that's always part of it too.
Fundraising is something our community is really, really good at, as Dr. Terry Wallig could point to. She has some recent successes to share, I'm sure. Phil, I see it looks like you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
I do, and I just wanted to welcome Ben and love the Iowa clinics. So you've joined a great team.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, can you share with us just one of the, if there is a challenge that you've encountered as you stepped into this role following a tenured CEO?
Yeah, so I mean, gosh, I kind of felt like I was standing on the shoulders of a giant when I took this role, having only had one CEO who was really kind of a founder previous to me, and it was somebody that I've known for several years from some national boards that we were both on. So that candidly, that was a little intimidating coming in, probably 25 years junior to the person that was here before me, and having a lot of respect for that person and all that they've built here. So I feel like that's been a great professional challenge for me, and balancing how do I really respect and explore and appreciate, try to better understand a culture and an institution that far predates me. And then at the same time, try to take that institution to the next level. So there's a lot that goes into that, but I feel like for me, that kind of starts with a genuine respect and admiration for what some very entrepreneurial folks have been able to accomplish here, and their legacy.
As you were being recruited away from Jefferson City, what was it that really drew you to this great community, DSM USA?
Well, it was in August, I think, when I started, well, maybe June when I was interviewing. So I didn't know about this Arctic thing that you guys have. I really didn't. People joked about it, but I didn't understand it until like the last few weeks when it's really come home to me. So it was not the climate, just the people. I think the defining characteristic, the thing that jumps out it's not the cost of living. It's not the short commute times. I mean, a lot of Midwest cities have those things, right? To me, the difference when I interviewed in Des Moines was the genuine kindness of the people here, and just how thoughtful and conscientious everyone was as a culture. And I'm from the Midwest, and I've lived here my whole life, and there really is something unique and special about Iowa that I've come to appreciate. And I tell other people about that that live elsewhere, and they're like, yeah, it's the Midwest. We're all nice people. Get out of here. Come on. But it's a real deal.
We agree. Yes, and we're glad to call you an Iowan now. So thank you. Since you are still fairly new to our community, and again, know that you've been very busy in the new role, juggling a lot of challenging situations. But as you think about the community and different initiatives that you're hearing about or getting pitched on, perhaps, are there a few initiatives that really stand out to you that you're excited about? I know we've talked a little bit about water trails as an example. Anything that's happening in the community that's really piqued your interest?
I don't know. There's so many things, Tiffany. A lot of stuff you guys are doing is so cool. So I wouldn't say there's one thing. I think it was you that was telling me about the surfing plan, which is by far the most interesting of any of the ones I've heard about. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that progress. And I don't intend to be on a surfboard in the river anytime soon, but I fully intend to go check it out as soon as that's available. So I'm all in on the surfing initiative for sure.
Outstanding. I'm pretty sure that Rick Tollickson has volunteered to give us surfing lessons. Is that right, Rick?
I'm kind of the same way. You're not going to see me on a surfboard, Tiffany, you know that. But I'll be right there on the banks watching everyone else.
I think we need to get Jay out there. I think Jay needs to be the first one on the surfboard. I feel like he can pull it off.
I'm not sure. I don't know, but we'll let him know. We'll let him know that you said that for sure. But Ben, I should lift up and just share that Rick Tollickson, who's on the call here, was really one of the, if not the first person to really lean into the Central Iowa Water Trails project. And the project is what it is today because of Rick's leadership. And Rick, would you mind, I don't know if you two have met, would you mind introducing yourself just quickly?
Yeah, I'm Rick Tollickson, the CEO of Hubbard Realty Company. So very familiar with Iowa Clinic and your predecessor as well. So I look forward to meeting you once all this COVID stuff's behind us.
Likewise, Rick. Thank you.
Now, Jay had the opportunity to go whitewater rafting in one of our tours, and he chickened out. So we couldn't get him in a raft. I don't think we're going to get him on a surfboard.
I think I feel like enough, maybe a social media campaign or something. We could fundraise out of that probably, but I think there's a way to make it happen.
Love that creativity. Yes, let's do it. Thank you. And again, for those that have just joined the call, we have Ben Vallier from the CEO of the Iowa Clinic joining us today. If you would like to unmute, introduce yourself, ask a question, please feel free. This is really designed to help different CEOs in our community connect. So please feel free. Terry?
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany, and welcome, Ben. Nice to have you in our community. I hope you find it as welcoming as many of us have. I'm curious, Iowa being a rural state also faces a lot of challenges with reimbursement, particularly Medicare, Medicaid, and a lack of specialty physicians. The Iowa Clinic has been quite successful in recruiting some key specialists to the Des Moines area, but what's the approach? How do you look at that going forward? As that's going to be probably an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, I think we've got a number of challenges. Reimbursement's definitely up there, and Des Moines actually, I think, fortunate relative to a lot of other smaller cities in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. I mean, we're able to recruit more specialties here than a lot of cities, fortunately, because of the residency programs and medical school and so forth. I think what we've been able to do well is to try to create a low bureaucracy environment. Healthcare, I mentioned earlier, is such a bureaucratic thing. So we really try to give doctors as much control over their lives, their schedules, their future, their profession, and their clinic practice as possible. And I think that's been part of our success. But I think that we have a tough tort environment and we have a tough reimbursement environment. Those things aren't going to go away, and I don't think I was going to go from 49th in the nation on Medicare reimbursement to 25th. So I think we're all going to have to find ways to work together and to share specialists in any way we can across communities. Use telehealth any way we can to make sure that we're able to deliver as much high quality care to the Iowans as possible.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Dr. Walleg. If there aren't any other questions, I'll keep going here. And we know that you have a lot of different audiences and generations that you are balancing and catering to. Can you talk with us just about how you do balance those various interests of those different generations, and also the team as well as your external, your clients?
Yeah, I don't know. One person at a time. The generation thing is tough, and it's real, right? We all experience it. The first thing I guess I've had to learn is, and I'm still learning, is not to have this overwhelmingly negative reaction to a paradigm that is so different from mine. The expectations, particularly this so-called millennial generation, I think it is tough. It's tough for folks that were raised the way I was and that work the way I do. And so I've had to work on myself as kind of the example setter to not just be offended at some of the differences in lifestyle and career desires and so forth. So for me, that's kind of where it starts, my own attitude about those things, and then trying to have as much of a individualized approach as we can. Communication is always something we struggle with. We've got physicians that can hardly find the email and figure that out, and we've got folks that want to get everything on our app. So we've got to kind of do it all. So we've got to have the app, and we got to have the video, and we got to have the intranet, and we've got to have the email, and then and then we still have folks that say, well, I wish you guys would communicate more. So that's just an ongoing challenge, and I think we just got to find more and more ways to get to folks where they are as best we can, and then to try to elicit from them the best we can based on their unique skills and what they bring to the table. And so I'm going to try to focus less on generations and perhaps more on personality types, because I think those threads run through all the generations one way or the other.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that answer. I think that's fantastic. And certainly healthcare continues to change rapidly, and we know and understand that telehealth in particular over the last year has increased. What do you see as that next big thing? You mentioned the app and more communication, but what do you think is the next big thing that the healthcare industry will tackle?
Well, I think to Dr. Wallach's comment and Brian's comment, I really think cost in healthcare is going to continue to be a major driver of decisions and how.
We lost you, Ben, for a second. I think there you go.
Am I back? Yeah. So I just say cost, I think, are going to continue to drive how we make decisions as it relates to kind of how things shape for the future. And I think employers and employer-sponsored health plans are going to be a really big part of that. And that includes how we adopt different technologies, the different ways that we deliver care. I think there's a lot of disruption and innovation happening right now.
Can others hear Ben? I think Ben, if you can hear us, Ben, I think you may have frozen. I'll give Ben a quick text message here. Stand by. Thanks everybody for your patience. Talk amongst yourselves.
Tiffany, he has left, so I'm hoping that he just jumps right back on and we can get back to it.
That's healthcare. It's just so unpredictable.
Thank you. Well, hopefully he'll log back on here momentarily, but
I did just have a phone number join, so I'm wondering if that's him.
if it is a 620 number, that's it.
No, it's not.
Well, maybe it's his office line. We'll see here. Ben, have you rejoined the call?
Here he is.
You
He's
can
coming
just,
back in.
I just did that. You just pull up your screen and disconnect from the computer audio and call in, and it's 100% better. So.
Yeah, I make one comment about Jay on the surfboard and I get kicked out a minute later. I think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, welcome to Des Moines. We didn't really mean it.
Well, it is one of the governor's priority, right, on broadband. So.
Yeah, maybe we should start with the Iowa
Good
Clinic here.
segue. You need to support that.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Ben, we lost most of your last answer, but really glad you were able to rejoin us. Thank you. So let's see here. Another strategy that's really risen to the top in as far as conversations, certainly around the region, but also around the country this past year has been diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So can you share with us some of the strategies that you're implementing or continuing at the Iowa Clinic as it relates to inclusivity?
Yeah, I think we're going through a process right now of really looking carefully at all of those kinds of initiatives and trying to be very thoughtful about it. Coming out of COVID and the kind of the emotional, mental impact that that's had on our team, just that kind of ongoing constant stress and uncertainty that's been hanging over folks, a lot of fear. Our focus has been stepping back, not worrying about what's happening outside, but really looking inside and talking to our employees and saying, hey, what do you need from us to be successful? What barriers do you have? How can we better communicate? How can we better facilitate a workplace where everyone feels valued, everyone feels included? And as we look at this more and more, nobody gets burned out on inclusion activities, right? Being more included, so long as you follow that up with actions. So I'd say right now we're at a place of listening to our employees, synthesizing their feedback, and then trying to make sure that whatever we do, that we don't do anything because it's trendy or popular, but because it's meaningful, it's data driven, and it's going to have a real impact on the day-to-day around here. So that's our focus, and what our employees are telling us is they want us to redouble efforts on recognition. They want to have better management communication, kind of the same old stuff. So kind of however we repackage that, they tell us we need to do the same things better. And so it's been an interesting process. We'll continue to evolve it, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Thanks for sharing. Before we jump into some fun questions here, for those of you that are available, let's just go around the call here since we have a manageable size group and make sure everyone gets a chance to introduce themselves to Ben. And Anne, can we start with you?
Sure. Good morning. Welcome, Ben. My name is Ann Schmerdla, and I'm the president and CEO at the Blank Park Zoo. And I just started my role on June 1st of this year.
Nice to meet you, Ann.
Let's see here. Mr. Hellick, can you please introduce yourself formally to Ben?
Yes, good morning. I don't know if my picture is coming up or whether my cell phone number, which I didn't rename. So good morning to all. I've been in Des Moines now just this last week for 23 years, and I too am a transplant. So, I can certainly help you around the community. I hadn't stepped foot in Iowa until I was recruited in, that 23 years ago after spending 18 years in Kansas City. So got some ties to that Missouri market as well. And, I've got family in Philadelphia, so I think the Midwest for me has turned out to be a, really good place. Are we just introducing ourselves, Tiffany, or are we asking a question then as well?
You are welcome to ask a question if you have one in mind.
Yeah, and I apologize because I had a little trouble getting in, so this may have been on the introduction, as well. But I'm just curious because obviously, you were recruited in, and I don't know your background, whether you had any ties to Iowa either, because we've got some people that are really tied into the to the partnership and a lot of the the wheels of economic development. I'm just really curious. How did we show as you evaluated this opportunity to move to this market, and what ultimately tipped it in the direction of accepting the role?
Yeah, so I shared a little bit earlier. The community itself, I thought, I'm here in the middle of COVID, so everything's a little bit weird. But despite that, I thought the genuine nature of just the people here and the culture, I thought really came through, and it really spoke to my family and I. Everything from the school tours to everywhere we went. The culture really made a big difference for us. But I've been aware of the Iowa Clinic for several years from a number of other things, and the reputation that the clinic has throughout the physician practice world in the Midwest especially. So the combination of the two just made this an absolute no-brainer for us to say yes to.
Well, terrific. We're happy to have you. Then the other thing is, how you want to connect up to the community, what kind of priority that is for you, because you got a lot of people on the call that'll help you connect up with the right groups.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. It's great to meet you also.
Thanks, Mike. And Ben, for your reference, Mike has been heavily involved in the partnership for many, many years. We've been very fortunate to have Mike lead multiple different boards and committees. So really, really glad to have you on the call today, Mike.
Sure.
Next, Becky, would you mind introducing yourself?
Good morning, I'm Becky Woody. I'm the president of Health Partners Unity Point Health based out of West Des Moines here. So if you're not familiar, we are a joint venture between Health Partners based out of Bloomington, but then Unity Point Health right here locally. And I've been in my role now for a year and a half, but I've been in healthcare for 30 years and I'm originally from Iowa, so born and raised, happy to help in any way. Excited to be able to participate in these type of introductions, and just want to say welcome to you, Ben.
Thanks, Becky. Great to meet you.
Thanks, Becky. David, would you mind introducing yourself, Dave?
Sure. Good to see you again, Ben. Dave Lito, president of Palmer Group. We're an employment firm, do temporary staffing, permanent placement, and outplacement for companies that are doing a little downsizing. So good to see you again.
Likewise.
Don Coffin.
Try to unmute myself. Hey, Ben, we have met. We've had lunch. Don Coffin, CEO of Bankers Trust. I did have a question, and it sort of was answered maybe a little bit before, but you mentioned being in charge of the strategic plan and strategic direction of the group, and getting a group as entrepreneurial, maybe as a group of doctors to move forward on any one particular change or move, or how do you envision that to work? Is it just as easy as a vote, or it's more massaging than that?
I would say more the latter than the former, for sure. So I think we've got a good group that appreciates the direction of healthcare, and so we spend a lot of time talking about where healthcare is going, what our role can be in that, the kind of culture we have to get there, and then it's herding cats around that all the time, right? The great thing about working with highly driven, entrepreneurial, anal retentive physicians is that things move quickly, and there's not a lot of red tape. And then, but it's more the direction and trying to focus the direction of a bunch of highly entrepreneurial driven people, and try to focus that in one direction. That's a challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, great to see you again, Don.
Yeah, I've seen you.
Thanks, Don, and thanks for that question. Stacy or Rob, if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourselves, please feel free. Sorry, Stacy, we may have you double muted here. Angie's going to try to help. We cannot hear you.
She is not muted on my end.
Sorry, Stacy, we cannot hear you. Maybe Stacy can try again. Rob, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Unfortunately, my video is not working, so I guess it must be the technical difficulty segment of the call. Ben, welcome to the Iowa Clinic. Rob Baker. I'm actually a commercial team lead with US Bank here in Des Moines. I work alongside Mike Hellick, who you just got introduced to virtually. I guess a question I have, maybe off the beaten path, is what do you look forward to once kind of COVID is in the rearview mirror? What have you not been able to do during this time that you look forward to doing at some point?
You know, it's probably more on the professional front than the personal front. I look forward to not talking about COVID all the time and having it just as a constant thing. You know, just it permeates just about every conversation that we have in our industry, and it's not just getting around it. It's how do we confront it? How do we deal with it? You know, how do we help patients through it? So that's the thing I'm probably looking forward to the most, which I see, you know, hopefully in a post-vaccine world is probably about the right time for that. So having just not dealing with it every day and talking about other things is what I look forward to the most.
I hear you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Stacy, let's try this again.
All right, I think I have the problem fixed. Can you hear me?
Yes, so good to see you and hear you, Stacy.
Good to see you. Ben, welcome to Iowa. This is such a great community. I'm a transplant of now 20 some years, so I love this community. I'm Stacy Stein, President and CEO of LifeServe Blood Center. So we're excited to have a new leader of Iowa Clinic. Iowa Clinic's always been a great partner of ours. Recently, in fact, Dr. Rick Sidwell just stepped down from our board. So we like those trauma surgeons of yours that sometimes are at Methodist to be on our board. So we're excited to have you, and I look forward to meeting you in person when this pandemic is over.
Likewise, Stacy.
Thank you. I think we've made our way through the CEO exec leaders. If I missed anyone, please speak up. Ben, we're going to switch over here as we're getting close to wrapping up and ask you some more fun questions. So early on in our discussion, you talked about how you're a little bit of a rebel. I know a few things about you that would be synonymous with that word rebel. Can you share with the group here some ways that you are a little rebellious and maybe color outside the lines a little bit?
Oh, well, I would say probably the one I get the most flack for is I took up motorcycle riding a few years ago, which is a little bit cliche, you know, kind of rebel thing to do. But I took that up, and every doctor I worked with, you know, let alone my family and everyone else, is like, what's wrong with you? You work in healthcare, you should know better. You know, all of that kind of thing. So that's probably my my biggest rebel thing, at least on the personal front. So.
Thanks. I was hoping that was the one you would share. So thank you. A couple other just real fun questions here. Favorite restaurant so far in Des Moines?
Oh, so that's like one of my favorite things about Des Moines is there's actually a really good selection of restaurants. I'd put it up against a lot of other cities in the Midwest. So I haven't had a lot of date nights out, but a Pasto is probably on the list as far as a night out, and then Taste in New York if we're, you know, kind of eating at home sort of a thing. Those giant pieces of pizza, I like those.
Excellent. And so favorite food, is it pizza, or what's your favorite food?
Pizza, for sure.
Yes. Okay. Favorite TV show?
Seinfeld. I'm rewatching all the old episodes right now. I love it. It's an absolute gold mine. Can't believe it went everyone off the air.
Agreed. Favorite movie?
Any James Bond movies, starting with the old ones up through the new ones. I'll watch absolutely any of them. I love them all.
Excellent. Favorite quote?
Choose your companions before you choose your road. Personal and professional axiom that I think is great.
Thank you. Favorite book?
Five Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni. Read it 2 or 3 times. I buy it for all my teams. I think it's a good, easy read.
Agreed. That's also my favorite. So good. What you talked a little bit about what you do outside of work for fun. Anything else you want to touch on there?
Currently learning how to cook. So working on that, and then I've recently taken up playing chess. So teaching my kids to play chess. My wife and I are playing. We're kind of getting it. It's a weird kind of a weird hobby, but such as COVID, right? You figure out new things to do at home.
Does that mean you've watched Queen's Gambit?
Yeah, that's actually how I got my wife into it. So she was watching that, and so she decided she could try it out.
I think that's certainly been a trend. So that's great. That's true in our house as well. If there were a team that you were rooting for, who would be your number one pick?
You know, I got to think about that, because on the one hand, I'm a Big 12 guy. On the other hand, I was pretty cocky about K-State when we played Iowa State this year. And it turned out to be a pretty embarrassing and devastating loss. I think the second worst loss in Kansas State's football program's history. So I really got to think about it, but I'd probably lean Cyclones at this point.
Okay, we'll be good with that. I have to say, go Drake. Drake Bulldogs. They've been rocking it, but we'll take that. We'll take that. And if there are any other questions, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I have one closing question for you, Ben. If there is one message, one last thought that you'd like to share with this group, what would it be?
Oh gosh, just this too shall pass. We're going to get to the other end of this goofy pandemic, and I think we're going to learn from it. I think there's great things ahead for this community and for the broader business community. So
thank you. Thank you. Well said. Thank you for being so generous with your time, Ben, and thanks everybody for joining us this morning. If you'd like Ben's contact information, I believe Ben's okay with us sharing that with each of you. Feel free to let us know, and we'll get you connected virtually as well. Just want to thank everybody and hope you have a great day. And again, welcome to Des Moines, Ben.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you, everybody. Great to see everybody.